live until I click the button. And as soon as I click the button, we become alive. Are we live? Going live? We'll do it live. Come on, YouTube, catch up. Oh, I'm sure it must be working by now, so I'm just going to press the other button.
Welcome to your awakening. Please take all as your reality is adjusted.
I'm watching the YouTube page, that's why. I'm seeing the lag effect. Good evening, ladies and chest feeders. Welcome back once again. Another edition on this moon day evening, sunny evening of Sol Excalibre. Hello to everyone in the chat room. Greetings, well met fellow, hail, and welcome back once again. You arrived just on time. You arrived exactly when you meant to. I'm going to probably cough at you quite a lot this evening. I apologise in advance. I think the rapidly oscillating weather here in the UK at the moment, it's a nice bit of sun at the moment, but it was raining again earlier, and we've been getting a lot of wet weather. And I think that's just brought my cough out a bit more, that change in the atmosphere. So I apologise in advance for coughing multiple times during the broadcast. It's the way it goes, I'm afraid. Hello to everyone in the chat. I'll come back and do a scroll through the chat. Scrolling in a moment. But first of all, let's get back on to the YouTube page. Thank you. Yes, hello. This week, in the subtitle, I'll just put a simple subtitle, but the refuseniks rule was always simple. Yes, it is a simple subtitle this week, because the rule for this week is simple. The simple is now the rule. You are now being ruled by the simple. Please be aware that all of your rulers are simple, because they're all now adhering to a rule of simple. Yeah, I may be overdoing it a bit. Hopefully you get the point. I don't have a screenshot to explain visually this connection that I'm deliberately being silly about. This was a Twitter post by the current sitting selected president of the USA. Well, it was quite simple. And it just said, the rule is now simple. Get a vaccine or wear a face mask. That is all. Near enough. It's basically what it was. It was just like short, simple sentence. The rule is simple. Yeah. And from what I've seen, from what I've heard other people talk about, because I don't do Twitter, I can't be arsed with Twitter. It just is one of those platforms that would frustrate me. So I don't bother with it. So I don't see this stuff on a daily basis. I only see it when other people report it. But yeah, supposedly that particular post was taken down or changed or reworded. You know, they tried to present it in a more palatable fashion, maybe. How else do you describe it? Under the auspices of the Biden office, because, you know, I highly doubt whether it was him personally sitting there typing away on a device to send that post. But yeah, under the auspices of his current office, his regime, they put out this statement that basically said, get a vaccine or wear a mask forever. Yeah, quite a threat, but supposedly keeping it simple. Yeah, I thought that was quite appropriate, keeping it simple. old Jojo needs things to be simple. Otherwise, he's got a unfortunate habit of forgetting what he was supposed to say or how to even say words. He says words proper. So I'm laughing already. I've been doing a lot of laughing the last week or so because some of the stuff is just laughable. And unfortunately, as we descend into the circus ring, the ever tightening spiral of the circus ring of silliness, I made comment on this, I think, the other week. As the truth, as the reality becomes more obvious to people that have been fooled or tricked or deluded or beguiled by the system and the way it presents its bullshit, as they start to realize, they start to see the reality around them, they start to experience the reality of there being nothing to be afraid of in the sense of how the government is trying to terrorize them, the dissonance becomes harsher and harsher and harsher, like adding grit to a grindstone, so the friction becomes more and more agitating and grating. And in the desperation, this is the way the mind works for most people. The delusions become bigger and bigger and absolutely more unbelievable, because that's the only way the mind, I should say, rather than the brain itself, it's the only way the mind can cope with trying to balance the total illogical, unrealistic things that they're being told. The more extreme the lies become, the more you'll see this kind of craziness get more and more extreme and ridiculous. The people have to build bigger and bigger and bigger illusions to try and explain the bullshit. So it just becomes sillier and sillier. So it becomes more and more like a clown show at the circus. So, you're supposed to laugh at the clowns. Unless, unfortunately, they scare the shit out of you, because these people are in positions of power and influence. And yet they're acting like completely simple fools, ruled by simple. The simple brings a whole new meaning to simpleton. The town, T-O-N, is a shortening of town. Simpleton, the town of simple people. Anyway, before we go any further, because there is lots of other things to talk about, I just want to roll down the chat and say hello to everyone that's joined in so far. Taz is in the chat room. Hello, Taz. Thanks for joining in. And Simon Boyle, hello. Roscoe Pico Train. I don't know why, but I always want to say that with that accent. It's perfect for the, making that point with the accent. Hello, thanks for joining in. High Plains Drifter, hello. Hope you got a nice piece of hickory to hand. It might be needed at some point. Mascara Snake, hello. And Sidefish, hello. Ron Malcolm, hello, mate. Hope you're well. And Resi Tuber, hello. Faith Ferrer, hello. Ridiculizer, hello, mate. Check his SoundCloud links out. He's been busy uploading his music onto SoundCloud, where the quality is a lot better, obviously, because if you upload music to YouTube, it gets a bit degraded because of the way the compression works with file formats and stuff like that. Reality Chat's in the room with us. Dave Iron, hello. And Lowland Pete's in the room with us, hello. Soul Bollocks, it is indeed. Each day those bollocks are getting bigger and bigger. Sean hello. Is it Sean or Sheen? I'm sorry, I don't know. Depends where you are, I suppose, where you're located, which particular language it comes from. Stewie, hello, Stewie. Dinny Carr, hello, mate. And Kendo, hello. Hope you're well. Thanks for sharing links. I'm scrolling. I've said hello to you. I know I saw some other names as I was moving down the chat room earlier. Niam Gara, hello, good evening. And Wisdom Encouraged, hello. It's late night, that's all right, mate. That's what the time machine is for, hopefully, as long as these episodes stay up online, of course. You never know. We might see a pattern emerge of video removal with this particular video. Because one of the patterns I noticed with what YouTube did last time when they started swatting some of my videos was it was the episode after we had done one of the ice cream social broadcasts where I talked with Please Stop the Ride and Anonymous, because they're over in the USA and Canada. And it just seems that like YouTube picked, when it decided to give me strikes and whatever, it picked the episode after we'd done one of those broadcasts. As I say, one of the possible patterns that could be related to it. So you never know, this particular broadcast might end up only available on Odyssey. And I think I do need to upload more of the episodes onto Odyssey because it doesn't seem to be keeping up with the current broadcasts. There's a few missing recent ones. That might be because of restriction on space on my channel on Odyssey. I don't know. I might have to remove some of the older videos to put the newer ones on. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, sorry, long explanation, digressing. Dino, hello mate, hope you're well. And Patrick Nee, hello. I think we did get some links come through on previous broadcasts, some links. I know Society of the Spectacle managed to get a link in the comments, and some other people posted links as well. So, you know, try it. We can't guarantee that the Gestapo are going to let links through, but sometimes they do. And when you're looking at the videos, please remember, check where it says top comments or new comments, right, the little drop down box, and select newest comments, because often they've got this tactic that they hide comments under they bury them basically behind the top comments. So YouTube prefers to show you the comments that it's decided are the top, and it just puts out of sight all the other stuff. Trickery. Jordan, where was I? I mean, now I'm talking about jumping around. The chat's just gone shot all the way down. Let me scroll back a minute. Jason Edwards, hello. Thanks for joining in. And will our chat work okay now? Made in UK PLC, hello. Yeah, it seems to be settling down again now. It had a bit of an issue. It decided to suddenly start jumping up and down. So, yes, okay. I think, yeah. I'm caught up on the chat room. Hello to everyone in the chat room. Hello to all the lurkers as well. The chat room is there for you to make use of if you choose to, but obviously it's not a requirement. Same as clicking the buttons like the like and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's there for a certain amount of functionality, but you're not required to. But I would recommend that you try and develop the habit of moving information around for yourself, you know, word of mouth recommendation, basically. I'm not asking people to share stuff. You know, I've never wanted to get drawn into that, you know, share, if you share, I'll share. If you sub to me, I'll sub to you, all that kind of networking silliness. It's just in this current climate, with the way the censorship works, with the way tyrannical regimes work, sooner or later they remove all of your public or commercially available methods to share information with each other. So you end up doing it in that kind of underground railroad fashion, the underground press, the word of mouth communication, print out old style, print out your own flyers, you know, stuff like that. So if you start getting into the habit of that now, don't rely on these systems to share information. Make use of them while you can, make use of them in the best way you can, but be prepared for the fact that they're steadily going to keep pulling those fences in. So doing things like sharing links and stuff like that, it's going to become less and less possible, less and less practicable. Whereas recommending to people where they can find people's websites or channels or, you know, whatever platform they're on to broadcast from, I think that's the way we're going to be going. We already have been going for quite a while, steadily getting more and more. The Rebel, hello. I've just seen in the chat room more people joining. Wish Fix, hello, mate. And We Mad Mental Me, hello. Evening to you all. So, the reason I picked up on that Biden tweet is because it did shock me a little. You know, I don't want to say shock. It did take me aback a little that they would be quite upfront and direct in the way they phrased what they posted. I'm saying they because, like I mentioned earlier, I doubt very much that it was just Jojo himself sitting there going, oh, I'll tell the people to do this. They quite directly told them what the whole agenda plan is likely to be anyway, which we've been talking about for over a year now. It's not really about the vaccine. It's about identity control, information control, registration, stuff like that. So them telling you you've got to get the vaccine or wear a mask forever is a slightly hidden threat. You know, they're slightly careful with the wording. They make reference to the mask and having to wear the mask in perpetuity, potentially. But really what they are alluding to with that threat is it's not just the mask, it's all the other things associated with the restrictions. So the social distancing, the not traveling, all that kind of stuff. So they're telling you it's not going to stop until you get the jab. And he's saying it quite directly, as in, this is the way it's going to be. So no wonder they rapidly wanted to change that comment. Yeah, because he's like, no, you're making it too obvious to him. You've got to still keep up the pretense. We've got to still keep pretending that we've got no other choice and, oh, we had to do it. And, oh, you know, we're just worried about you poor people. We need to take care of you. And that then, from that Twitter post, that had me making those connections between, well, the simple. You're saying you want to keep the rules simple. And here in the UK, you know, that was Jojo's statement to the world, but primarily to the population in the USA, because obviously that's who he's supposed to be in charge of. But here in the UK, we've been getting a deliberate Punch and Judy show between we're going to be reducing the restrictions soon, folks. We're going to be out enjoying ourselves for the summer. You know, by May 17th, some of the restrictions are going to drop. You can travel to abroad to go to these different countries, you know, especially if you really enjoy going to little out of the way places that are hardly ever visited, such that they have no tourist industry whatsoever, like the Falklands Islands. You know, you can go to places like that. So we've got that one side of the kind of, you know, pretense of, oh, if you do as you're told, you'll get your freedoms back. And then on the other side, we've got the Vinda flu. Yeah, the variants of concern, the new variant of concern, the Vinda flu. It's going to threaten to undermine all the progress they've made, such that they'll have to reintroduce restrictions and lockdowns are going to come back again. And, oh, be afraid, there's spikes everywhere, jumping all over the place. So you got them like Punch and Judy in the UK media at the moment saying, we're not. And meanwhile, playing this pretense game with the public of like, oh, well, yeah, you can go on holiday, but only to this list of countries that are places you probably wouldn't want to go anyway. And even if you did go, the cost is going to be extortionate because you're going to have to pay for tests and stuff like that. So basically double the cost of your holiday, if not more so. Yeah, if you were planning to have a package holiday that, say, cost about 500 quid per person, you basically triple that because of you having to pay the cost for the tests, etc. So, yeah, still further restricting international travel, especially things like holiday, leisure travel, In other words, the general population is not allowed to be flying around the globe anymore. But while they're doing that in the politics, in the talking head media circus, people were out making their voices heard and sharing with those around them the fact that they didn't want to agree with the suggested guidelines or the restrictions. In other words, as I put in the subtitle, the refuseniks rule was simple. No mandatory vaccinations, no mandatory biometric medical ID passport system, no mask wearing, especially for people that are at no risk at all, such as children. No social distancing, no closing businesses, no lockdown bullshit. In other words, the rule is simple. It's just, no, we're not interested in your bullshit. To now here in the UK, there's been playing that game of, the refuseniks, the deniers, the idiots, the COVID-idiots, as they like to use that phrase, are going to kibosh, they're going to overturn the progress we've made towards the roadmap. Remember ages ago, I called it the rubber band roadmap, because it's like you're tied to a bungee cord. They'll make you think, like a toddler on one of those control harnesses. They'll make you think you've got freedom, like you can run all across the field, any direction you want to go. But no, boing, you get pulled back again. Boing, boing. Rubber band roadmap to freedom.
And what I find interesting, Cookie, sorry to interrupt you.
Cool, and go for it.
June the 21st was the date that was freedom. Yeah. You could take your masks off, all that stuff, get back to, what it was. And now freedom denied because variants, like you say. And like you say, keep it simple. Say no. That's it. That's as simple as you can get. You have a choice still. And you mentioned holidays and stuff. Portugal, masks apparently have to be worn on the beach if you go on holiday to Portugal. I saw that headline. I thought, have people seriously going to do that? Blasting sun on their face. And then the suntans would be interesting, wouldn't they?
I think I'm pretty sure we showed a photograph last year of that old couple with the tan marks of where they'd had the mask on their face while they were sunbathing. Yeah. It's like, okay, right.
And we said they'd pull this. This is going to be something that was coming, those ones who were saying no. They were going to zoom in on that and propagandize the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Which is what they're doing.
And switching the terminology to things like refusenik. This I'm not sure exactly where the use of the terminology first comes in reference to the current situation, right? Where it first comes from, because originally it's a phrase that was used to do with the Red Menace, the communist threat in like 50s, 60s USA. So that concept of the refusenik, as it's not exactly part of British culture, but they've started to try and introduce it and get people using it because without their awareness, and this is going to add into one of the other things I want to talk about, the articles. Anyway, it will bring into many people's memory that connection to people who were labelled as political subversives or dissidents.
Yeah.
And that's been part of them steadily building up this narrative of anyone who doesn't want to get the vaccine or is one of those, as they call them, refuseniks, is a domestic terrorist. And they've been making steady progress on that labelling. They've been pushing that concept of the unvaccinated are the problem. They are the danger. They are the ones that are causing, the granny killer bullshit that they tried.
Yeah.
Putting this idea into people's heads, combined with anyone that attempts to destabilize or derail the status quo of the current governing body is by definition a terrorist. So if you say no to them telling you that you need this for society to be able to function, equates you to being a domestic terrorist. Yeah, because you're trying to destabilize their message to the population. Yeah, there's been a few little bits all adding into that thread over the last few weeks. You know, a few articles that add into that perception that they're trying to put into the mind of most of the public, especially the people who've obviously been going along with the official story and believing what they're being told and whatever.
Yeah,
they're trying to push that idea into their heads that those people like me, like us, that say we're not interested, we don't want it, they are actually, like I say, outright terrorists. You are dangerous to society. You are a subversive that is going to cause harm to the people around you, to your neighborhood, to your society, etc.
Yeah, they'll try and do that. And I think they'll try, but there's too much of a swell of awakening and truth coming out, and people are seeing the truth, and they can't go away. You can't put it back in the bottle and forget about it. Once you know something and you know it's wrong and you see all the evidence that backs it up, what they're trying to hide, and you realize what mainstream media actually is, which is just one big fucking lie of most things and over exaggerations and drama. That's it. You know, not much going on really, other than where they want your eyes to go in the direction they want you to look in. You know, politically, for political ends, just like with Israel at the moment. There's other conflicts going on as well, isn't there? And obviously, you know, they want you to focus in there. You know?
Well, isn't it funny how they destroyed the block? I was going to say skyscraper, but it wasn't really that tall. But the tower block that had the press offices in. And I watched on the day, not as in I was watching it as it happened. I mean, watching the news on the day, and it's on literally almost every news media platform. Is that one particular element of that whole story? So, oh, look, they blew up this tower that holds the press offices. And it had me thinking, like, yeah, they got a habit of that. They've done it before. Do you remember in the Iraq war as well? They did the same thing. They attacked the press offices. And it's funny how they seem to have this habit of they attack the press offices and then the world's media all report on it. It's funny, ain't it? It's just a bit of a weird coincidence.
Yeah.
But I don't want to play this whole thing because it's a bit like a karaoke version. So the music on it is more than likely going to get a copyright. But
is it bad?
I'll put the link in the side chat in a minute. But it's just this first bit with the sheep. When do you want it? I remember that video clip from a few years ago. The farmer or whoever it is standing there and just says to the sheep, "What do you want?" And they all respond.
You do, yeah.
When do you want it? And they all respond again. But shout out to Based Welshman who uploaded this over the weekend, and shout out to Paula as well, who shared the link to me. He was at the gathering in London, which we'll come back and talk about in a minute. But yeah, he put this up the other day, and it's a nice cover version of Radiohead's "Creep," obviously with different lyrics over it. Yeah, so check it out, folks. But the main one I wanted to show you was this one. Thanks to the UK column, I know about this. This is on the archive site. Because obviously the Telegraph normally would not allow you to look at their articles and all that kind of stuff. And we are here to examine and critique and discuss the contents and the arguments presented in this article. So this certainly falls under fair use. I'm not trying to monetize or exploit or cherry pick or otherwise subvert the content of their article. But I am wanting to be able to show it as a reference so that we can, as I say, discuss it. So that certainly falls under fair use. This came out on the Telegraph, 14th of May this year, 2021, 14th of May. Use of fear to control behavior in COVID crisis was totalitarian admit scientists. And then a little subtitle, members of Scientific Pandemic Influence Group on Behavior, also known as SPY-B, express regret about unethical methods. So, do you remember I've been saying the past few episodes, they seem to have started shuffling their position because they know they're going to have to deal with accusations of culpability, of criminality, etc. This is another example of them doing this.
And
Scientists,
they're still doing it now, Cookie. I was going to say it's happening now, and they're just reporting this. It's going on right now.
We said this last year. The guys on the UK column made this point. They put out a broadcast almost exactly a year ago. It was actually just over a year ago that they did a broadcast pointing out these exact things. Yeah. And it's taken them a year, obviously under a lot of pressure, because so many people have been talking about this point that was raised. Their phrases, which we'll get into in a sec, which I want to read it. Yeah, many people have been making this point it's taken a year. They've now had to reply. They've had to respond because they know this is rapidly catching up to them. And the way this article presents this is as if, like, they didn't want to put their name to what they're saying. None of them are actually directly named. This is sort of like, it's just being used as a platform. The Telegraph is just being used as a platform to put this out. There's no further investigation. There's no line of questioning or inquiry that the journalists make at all. No, it's just, here's some statements from these unnamed scientists and experts. But people have been pointing this out for over a year, that what they did and what we became aware of because it was outlined in their own documentation was certainly unethical. It could certainly be called totalitarian. And it, in many ways, I agree with what Brian Gerrish said today, it's criminal. Yeah, because some of the end results, the consequences of what has happened over the year because of the policies implemented that were based on this SAGE and SPY-B advice group, led to a lot of consequences. Anyway, I'll read some of it. I might end up reading all of it just to make the point. But scientists on a committee that encouraged the use of fear to control people's behavior during the COVID pandemic have admitted its work was unethical and totalitarian. Interesting sort of side note here. This is past tense. So is the Telegraph sort of subtly admitting that the pandemic is over? Yeah. Anyway, next bit. Members of the Scientific Pandemic Influence Group on Behavior, SPY-B, expressed regret about the tactics in a new book about the role of psychology in the government's COVID-19 response. SPY-B warned in March last year that ministers needed to increase the perceived level of personal threat from COVID-19 because, quote, a substantial number of people still do not feel sufficiently personally threatened, unquote. This was a point we made last year. This is them blatantly saying they need to terrify people to get them to do what they want. So if that's the outline of how they then design their methodology, then why is anyone surprised that there's a whole bunch of people out there that are so scared, or worse, they may have done something stupid based on that fear, on those terrors that have been given to them. This one's named. Gavin Morgan, a psychologist on the team, said, clearly using fear as a means of control is not ethical. Using fear smacks of totalitarianism. It's not an ethical stance for any modern government. By nature, I am an optimistic person, but all this has given me a more pessimistic view of people.
You mean politicians and scumbags who make the rules?
Yeah, and some of his own colleagues, because I wonder if the only reason he's named is because he's probably innocent in terms of what he might have suggested or his participation in the creation of the advisory documentation, whatever, maybe he feels safe to be willing to put his name to his statement. Yeah?
Mm.
Mr. Morgan spoke to author Laura Dodsworth, who has spent a year investigating the government's tactics for her book, A State of Fear, published on Monday. How appropriate.
Yeah, I'm going to say good timing. Yeah.
And
Get the sales in.
Another one cashing in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It always, whenever there's a crisis, there's always somebody who can commodify it in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Ministers have faced repeated accusations that they ramped up the threat from the pandemic to justify lockdowns and coerce the public into abiding by them, a claim that will be examined by the forthcoming public inquiry into the pandemic response. Sir, do you see what I say? They're positioning themselves to avoid culpability as well. And, this has been said by most of us and other people as well. This inquiry is just going to be another whitewash, similar to the Grenfell inquiry, similar to so many other inquiries that have happened. They're going to play it out, and it's just going to end up going nowhere. And they'll say, "Oh, we're so sorry. We made a few mistakes. We won't do it again. Promise." Yeah, and as well, it's an inquiry into the pandemic response, which I do certainly agree that, they need to look into that. But why is it just about the pandemic response? What about the fact of the very definition of pandemic being misused and misapplied based on exactly what he's just been describing?
Mm-hmm.
They wanted a substantial number of people to feel threatened. Why did they need that? Because there wasn't really a pandemic where people saw bodies in the streets such that they felt threatened.
Yeah.
So in other words, was there even a pandemic, let alone worrying about looking into the response to the alleged pandemic? They need to look into whether their claims there was even a pandemic in the first place are actually right, correct, accurate, etc.
Yeah. And then this other quote here, this looks interesting, what this bit says here.
SPY-B is one of the subcommittees that advises the Scientific Advisory Group for Emergencies, SAGE, led by Sir Patrick Vallance, the Chief Scientific Advisor. One SPY-B scientist told Miss Dodsworth, unnamed, in March 2020, the government was very worried about compliance and they thought people wouldn't want to be locked down.
You don't say. Yeah.
There were discussions about fear being needed to encourage compliance, and decisions were made about how to ramp up the fear. Who made those decisions? Who made the suggestion? Who made the decisions? That's culpability of how to ramp up. So jumping in on myself, how to ramp up the fear. The way we have used fear is dystopian. So there's somebody, even though they were named, somebody from the SPY-B team being quoted on this particular day. Obviously, they're referencing what's been put in this book that's now available, but directly saying and admitting that the way they used fear is dystopian. That's an admission of culpability, that they used fear in such a way as only normally used within a totalitarian regime, that is something that we're all supposed to be against and not want, and it's bad and all that kind of stuff. But they've just said, yes, we did. The use of fear has definitely been ethically questionable. It's been like a weird experiment. Ultimately, it backfired because people became too scared. Because we, as experts supposedly in psychology and social psychology, the psychology of groups en masse, of populations, we were such experts that we were too dumb to realize that what we were going to do would make some people so scared that they would probably take their own lives or do something silly, something extreme. But we're experts with qualifications in psychology and sociology and all this kind of whatever.
Mind control, it says there, the next one. Someone said another person, another
unnamed SPY-B member. Yeah. You could call psychology mind control. You could. No, you can absolutely call elements of psychology mind control. That's what we do. Clearly, we try and go about it in a positive way, but it has been used nefariously in the past.
And now.
An admission, but an attempt to make it sound historical.
Historical, yeah.
Like Jimmy Savile. Yeah.
Same things. Yeah.
It's all happened. It's not happening now, folks. No.
Same techniques they use, don't they? The wording and
One warned that, again, another one unnamed, people use the pandemic to grab power and drive through things that wouldn't happen otherwise. We have to be very careful about the authoritarianism that is creeping in. So again, a member on the advisory board knows full well what is happening as in authoritarianism creeping in. I would argue that it's well in the door by now. It's not just appearing and being a possible threat. It's already in the door and is rapidly infecting the place. They talk about a virus. That's the virus. Another said, without a vaccine, psychology is your main weapon. Again, see, they're admitting it directly. They have been weaponizing psychology against the population. Psychology has a really good epidemic, actually, or psychology has had a really good epidemic. So, but he's basically saying, like, oh yeah, it's been a great time for us experts in the psychological field. Yeah, we've had great fun playing and experimenting on all the public with our weaponized psychological methodologies.
Mind control experiment globally.
Yeah. As well as overt warnings about the danger of the virus, the government has been accused of feeding the public a non-stop diet of bad news, such as deaths and hospitalizations, without ever putting the figures in context with news of how many people have recovered or whether daily death tolls are above or below seasonal averages. Again, making admissions of subject matters or questions or arguments raised over the last year plus, that in some cases, if you tried to ask these questions, you'd get your video removed, you'd get your channel banned. Or if you were somebody who had quite a large audience, a lot of influence, you could be deplatformed completely. You could be labeled, undesirable, in that media sense of you wouldn't be given airtime in any way whatsoever. So they're just admitting, again, we did this kind of stuff. Another member of Spy B said they were stunned by the weaponization of behavioral psychology. He used a knife to stab someone. Oh, wow. Yeah, stunned by the weaponization of behavioral psychology during the pandemic, and that psychologists didn't seem to notice when it stopped being altruistic and became manipulative. They have too much power and it intoxicates them. Just that statement alone, says that even within their own team, they realized that there were people amongst them, because I'm not accusing all of them, This, again, is part of the compartmentalized structure of how this system does this kind of shit. There would have been people there who were like, hang on a minute, what do you mean we're going to do this, that, and the other? But their questioning gets steamrolled by the agenda push, by the power and influence manipulators that said, no, just do it, sign the paperwork, do it, put your name to it. And they would have been railroaded into going along with things that they knew would have bad results, detrimental effects.
Maybe that's the cultural thing within the medical establishment. I'm not sure what the hierarchical system is like and how these guys have stood there for a whole year or whatever and been unchallenged by any of their peers or anybody else.
And in the science community as a whole, right, I think academic science, I'll make that sort of clarification, because I know there's a lot of independent scientists out there, but they're so reliant on the infrastructure of grants and funding and university tenures, all these kind of requirements on their accredited name the name with all the letters after it to say that they've got this qualification in this field, etc. And that connected to their funding. Many of them would have seen the opportunity of like, oh yeah, now I can get tons of funding out of the taxpayer purse to carry on pursuing my personal scientific interests because I'm on this board. That means my name and my scientific credentials now carry immensely more weight.
Power.
Yeah, power.
Yeah.
Accumulating power, which at the same time has that, I'm trying to think of a metaphorical way of explaining it. It has that trap that the more power they attain, the more they are tied into that infrastructure. The deeper they're drawn into being interlinked into that matrix of the system. They get more powerful, so they get more funding, but the funding and the influence is part of what gives them that illusion of power, because it is just all illusion, and on it goes. Yeah. So it's like the cliche of selling their soul. Yeah, they'll gain more influence and power, but they have to give away more of themselves, more of their souls, and become more of that machine mind that the system wants. The sociopath, the psychopath, who's not going to give a shit that it has detrimental effects on the population. They just want to accumulate power and influence.
There's a glaring omission in that whole article. That's global.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not the government.
No,
It's
yeah.
Bobo is doing Build Back Better and World Economic Forum Agenda 2030 and that stuff. It's not a UK issue. It's a global issue. It's global totalitarianism, right?
Yeah.
Or at least for the Western world, and for as far as I know, the East is already pretty much there.
Yeah. Some of the countries definitely, yeah.
Yeah, from Middle East to China, it's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
In most places, it's pretty much.
That's what I'm missing in this article. Just all of it. Sure, we know, right? So to us, this is like, okay, right, stating the obvious a bit.
Yeah.
But it's good that they have some plausible deniability somewhere in an article where they can point. Yeah, well, we did write it down. But I doubt this is going to do anything, because if this is going to stick at a global government level, then it's not going to do nothing, because we are not being governed anymore by the
national government.
Yeah.
No. Just read this last bit, because I think it's, again, this is sort of part of that, them changing their stance to be ready to be culpable for suit. Steve Baker, the deputy chairman of the COVID recovery group of Tory MPs, said, if it is true that the state took the decision to terrify the public to get compliance with rules, that raises extremely serious questions about the type of society we want to become. If we're being really honest, do I fear that government policy today is playing into the roots of totalitarianism? Yes, of course it is. I would argue that it's not playing into the roots. It is building the foundation of it. Yeah, it is totalitarianism. Again, like what I said earlier about it's not creeping like it's just getting here. It's already in the door.
Yeah.
And global, like you say, it's not just here, it's everywhere. We always.
But that's. Sorry, I was just going to say that's the end of the
unvaccinated
article.
People have to wear masks. That's totalitarianism.
Forever and ever.
Right.
And as Pete points out, it's a very UK-centric point. There's nothing about the global situation in this. There's no connecting.
Applies to the
every country.
Well. Yeah.
This same situation has been playing out in near enough every country. Obviously, some won't necessarily have a group called SAGE or SPID or whatever, but they'll have similar advisory bodies that supposedly have been doing all this shit. And remember what I said, apart from this one guy who I'm speculating that it's probably because he feels he's got nothing that bad that he's responsible for, which is why he put his name to his statement. but the rest of them are all just, unnamed scientists. But this is them putting out little bits of statements to make it clear that, yeah, they knew they were doing it and they knew it was bad. Right, okay. This took a year. It's already been a year of the consequences of what they've done that's brought us to now. And they know there will be an inquiry, so they're trying to appropriate that inquiry and turn it into the usual governmental whitewash bullshit that happens.
But they don't care, Cookie. They don't care. I mean, look at what they did with the psychological stuff on us with social media and the like buttons and all the mental health issues that's caused people over the years, just bullying and all that crap, and what they created with that platforms that everyone's using today, and now we go into this type, manipulation, and
According to the DS5, the psychology guidebook, we're all crazy.
Yeah.
Seriously, everybody is.
Refuseniks. It's these terms they use and come up with that makes me howl. I'm just thinking, wow, another one. Here we go.
You got to have a catchy phrase or label, like that Build Back Better thing. Over the weekend, and I mean, you could take connotations to why I'm saying I was thinking about this over the weekend. But anyway, I was thinking about that stupid phrase, "Build Back Better." And I was thinking, with some of the stuff that's coming out about what's been going on recently, and as mentioned the other last week, I think, potentially people with what could be termed clean sperm or clean fertility are possibly going to become highly popular in the near future.
We're worth a fortune.
and then I thought, right, well, instead of build back better, why don't we just fuck forward faster? Yeah, we need more of these clean genetics population. We need more people joining the control group. So we need to start fucking forward faster. Yeah, get that on a slogan, print it, meme it, get it on a T-shirt, whatever. Yeah, they are determined to primarily reduce the population, or certainly the population growth. This has been a long-running subject that we've often talked about, the foundational eugenics ideology that seems to be, and that's why I say foundation, it seems to be one of the foundational bases that they built all these agendas on, that they need to be able to control reproduction. And they've been trying to get it into that in one way or another with things like family planning and reduction of the atomic family to the nuclear family, and then to there isn't really much of a family anymore. This steady gradualism process over the last 100 years. And now they're pushing it to the point where possibly there is a connection to something that is being presented to the public as being necessary, even though the evidence to claim that it's necessary is highly questionable and is not agreed upon. But they are suggesting that everybody has to have it, and there are strong possibilities that it affects fertility and reproduction.
This is all coming out, so as time moves forward, this will come, I'm just, like I've said for months, waiting for something to break, one of these go rogue mainstream media sites or something, just do something, and hang your balls out there and just do something for the people for a change, and tell the fucking truth. Yeah, tell the fucking truth. Yeah, or whatever, that kind of thing. So, yeah, gradualism, though, yeah, that's how it works. It's a slow, up to the point now, where we're sending it mental. Sorry.
One little note about the fuck forward faster kind of
Sorry,
idea.
It's just...
And I think maybe people might have spotted it in the chat already. Don't forget the fact that F is the 6th letter of the English alphabet, so FFF is 666.
Which is you, me.
Yeah, so just be aware of that, People
It's
might
you.
point it out and say, "Oh, that's got to be Satanism because it's got 666 automatically."
You must be a beast.
Playing slogan games, playing propaganda games.
That's what it's all about. And yeah.
That's what they're doing with that label, the refuseniks.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, I think they've chosen that particular name deliberately because they know it elicits the concept of people who were outright called dissidents or terrorists.
Yeah, it has that ring to it. And
the commie threat, the red threat, all that kind of stuff that was for the older generation, certainly. Maybe that's part of why they chose that label, because they know it would ring with an older demographic.
Yeah, it would. Yeah. Because you remember those movies and those sorts of documentaries or whatever back in the day, there would be all that kind of anti, communism stuff or spy things or whatever they were pumping your head with back then.
Probably doesn't make a lot of sense to younger generations until they look into, the kind of like the heritage of that label.
The gulag. Same as sort of those things, those terms used back then in the Cold War era through Berlin and all that, and the wall coming down and all that stuff.
Whereas now they're trying to erect a psychological wall. That's the main thing. I think
building it now, I'd say in full swing, 20 years since the 9/11. So that's when it all was beginning to, you're with us, against us, kind of pick a side, or beginning to psychologically work on you right through to this time now, which they seem to have softened us up, make us nice and pliable, so they can run all these crazy, like you say, this article with all the psychologists and the mind control. It's global mind control, MK Ultra on a global scale.
Yeah,
that's it. And they were practicing it in the 60s and all that. So they just now run it out worldwide, and they've got all the best brains on it. So,
they've now persuaded a large part of the population that every other human being is a potential vector for death, because they made the illness seem so threatening, so mortally dangerous. And you may have experienced this, you'd be walk down the high street or walk around a supermarket or something like that, and people look at you terrified if you come too close to them, because they don't see you as a living being. They see you as a dangerous weapon, basically. It's like they look at you and instantly their mind goes to fight or flight. The amygdala hijack response of I'm terrified of you because you're a potential mortal threat to me.
What you would have called this 1,000 years ago, like a spiritual psychic attack on people, where you put a spell on the tribe, or you'd work some energy in a certain way, so you would cause fear and panic amongst them. They've just done that now on a global scale. They've got that good at it now. That's what it is. They work your energy, work your mind, and that's where you've got to do your own work on yourself, so that is your protection against that shit and waking up to it, And
that's a marketing strategy.
It's what, Pete?
A marketing strategy.
Yeah.
Make people want it, like they need.
If you're in the business of selling jabby jabs, then this is just a marketing strategy.
I was gonna add in as well to come back to that creating two sides effect. Before, like you mentioned, the day of the going away of buildings, because it's been this year will be the 20th anniversary since then. And during that situation and since that situation, they have deliberately tried to create those two separate camps to create extreme polarization and separation between people and force them to fight each other. Either you think it was a this or you think it was a that. You either believe us or you're against us, all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Now it's at the stage where the population, I keep saying a large part of the population, just to make the point that it's not everyone, but a lot of people out there now look at each other in that kind of way. And some of what their mind is going through is subconscious or semi-conscious. They don't realize maybe that they look at somebody as being a mortal threat, but they look at somebody as being like an assessment where they have to go, right, okay, I need to keep you at this distance. I need to make sure you don't sneeze in my direction, or you're not heavy breathing into my hair like Jojo loves to do, that kind of thing. But the point I'm trying to make is, and especially with the mask acting as a deliberate visual reminder of infectious danger, I'm surprised they didn't order people to have green masks, like the Ebola green. That's why I had the Nazi COVID thing with the Ebola green mask. Anyway, a visual reminder of that infectious danger. So people are automatically, subconsciously splitting themselves into two groups, because either you want to keep on living, if you believe in the official narrative, you want to keep on living, or you're some crazy person that doesn't care if you kill Granny. That's the way they've been presenting it, and slowly they've been trying to persuade people that you're in one camp or the other, and you have to be at war with each other. And that means that dehumanization process, because that's what they're doing, eventually leads to situations, and I know I'm just portraying an extreme possibility, but it is it's a possibility that has a track record in history. So I'm not just pulling shit out of the air. This is based on the occurrences through history that repeat whenever these kind of regimes rise to power. Eventually, the dehumanization process leads to the point where those people who have been othered, completely dehumanized, can be removed, and the rest of the population generally don't give a shit. If anything, they're glad they're gone. They want them out the way. Eugenesis ideological attitude. So, they were a burden. They were a waste. They were non-essential. They were disease vectors. They were too dumb to get a jab, etc. Whatever it is, they want people to develop that perception of others within their minds. So the dehumanization process means those people can be removed from your society. This, we just looked at an article where they clearly state these are people who are considered experts in that field, psychology, sociology, etc. There's a few other ologies you could add in there. Those are people who are considered experts in the field of using psychological behavioral modification and manipulation. They clearly state they were aware that what they were doing was unethical and was going to lead to bad consequences. Yet they're trying to put this concept into the public's mind such that the public absorb it and internalize it, and it becomes the new abnormal, which means it's not going to be a problem for them to go like, oh yeah, those people over there are too dangerous. We need to just get rid of them. I will repeat, just to be certain people don't get me wrong here, the caveat that I am talking about a possible direction this could go. I'm not saying it definitely will, but these are the gradual, steady steps that totalitarian regimes have done in the past that have led to exactly that place.
Well, they're going to have a job, because the 20 million they're saying have had both in the UK, 20 million, with a population of 66, 7 million. Yeah. That's not quite even anywhere near half. So,
no, not even a third.
And they exaggerate figures, as we know. Those, how do we know they're true, or that's the actual figure? We don't know for sure, because we know the data's all skewed and dodgy. So, yeah, just interesting. So it isn't sort of, it's still a majority, a big majority, and they know that, you see, because I think a lot of people are more awake than we even realize ourselves when we do these talks and chats and things. People are actually seeing things and are reacting to that and saying no, and realizing who they are, and they've got a choice, and go and do a little bit of thinking, and that's been going on for a whole year. I said it would wake a lot of people up, more than 9/11 ever did. It's a global attack on your psychic, on you, the soul, the human, wherever you are on the planet. It seems they want to zoom in on us all and do this shit to us.
I do want to come back to showing more of the memes like we do later on at the end of the show, but I think it's really appropriate to put this one in now. Thanks, Taz, for sharing this in. This was a poll taken on Talk Radio. And I know, Talk Radio, whatever, don't get too hung up on the fact that they are just a commercial station. Are the unvaccinated selfish? Yes, 28%. No, 72%.
There you
and
go.
that's out of 31,000 votes. So that's quite a good sample size. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've got a good reach. Then you know they're out on all
Yeah.
the platforms, talk radio, whatever.
Yeah.
So.
And it's a really good segue as well to talking about the other main subject that I wanted to bring up this week, because, you know, we mentioned it last week and it's been regularly been talked about, and this stuff has been happening regularly around the country and in other countries. The gathering, the protest march, the getting together of people who are, use their label, the refuseniks, the ones that are saying, no, thank you. We're not interested in your cack. We don't want it. Go away. Leave us alone. And I will show a couple of quick little bits. I think I mentioned earlier, Base Welshman was there in London, in that there, Babby London. And Subject Access was there as well. And who was one of the other main ones? Resistance GB, is it, I think?
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot more people doing really good coverage now, you know, and the technology has caught up quite a bit. So people have got gear available to them that makes live streaming much better. You get much better quality and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you know, technology doing good things. So there's been quite a bit of good coverage, but just to show this one image, because I think this, you know, is a good sort of general image view. It's not a video. I just want to show this one scene. Now, this on Hugo Talks channel. I'll put the link in the chat in a sec, because otherwise it will change the screen view. Yeah, this is I think just not coming up to BBC House.
Yeah, that's where that is. I'm just trying to work out where they were. Yeah.
I think that's the temple, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this was when people who were on the march, they sort of went along and went direction that led them to BBC House, and they spent a bit of time outside BBC House shouting various things like "shame on you" and stuff like that. Yeah. And again, similar to the one recently, there were many thousands of people there. It was a completely mixed crowd. It wasn't, you know, all people of one particular race, creed, or religion, or anything like that. You know, it's a complete mixture, all walks of life. A lot of you know, homemade signs and banners and stuff like that. It was a much more authentic, genuine, organic grouping and movement and gathering of people.
Truth is powerful, isn't it? You know,
yeah,
it is. You know,
and again,
what these scumbags have been up to. Yeah, go on.
The majority of the mainstream media, as far as I could see anyway, I didn't see any big mainstream medias cover it at all this time. Not even like at the end of the day where there might have been a few scuffles or something. No, there was just no coverage whatsoever. No mention of it. They did, however, get loads of coverage of the anti-Israel protests that happened, and the little the fighting that was happening outside the Israeli embassy in London. Yeah, you got that all over the news, but nothing about this. And the BBC showed nothing of all those, but thousands and thousands of people stood outside BBC Centre shouting shame, you know.
Yeah, they were telling, Taz was saying there in the chat that they were telling the BBC to take down that pedo statue as well, the one that was outside the building, if you've seen that, outside the broadcasting house.
Strangely enough, I got another link that...
look into that, guys. If you don't know what we're on about, go and look into that, the statue and the guy who made it, or yeah.
It's sort of connected in a way, but I was going to mention this one as well. Shout out for Scott Webb, because he did put up a video about that statue. So if you check his channel, or before I forget, I better put these in the chat room, because otherwise I'll carry on waffling and I'll forget that I haven't actually shared those links for those videos like I said I was going to. And the same for Scott's video. Yeah. But this was another video he did talking about BBC propaganda silliness, which I was going to mention as well. That's them two videos I've just been looking at. Yeah, he's done this video about the BBC advice on how to safely hug.
Oh dear.
Yeah, now that they're supposedly reducing the restrictions, you can hug people again. But here's some advice on how to do it safely. Yeah.
Like we need to be
your
told
face
things.
away.
Like we don't know. It's almost as ridiculous as the one where they did with social distancing, where you had to hold a broom. Remember, a broom handle and hold it out in front of and around you, and that was your zone where you were safe.
Yeah.
Something's ridiculous. I mean, they're taking a piss, aren't they, with that?
I did point the one thing out about this. I didn't bother going and looking at the BBC article. I couldn't be asked giving them the click through or anything. But the way they've drawn these cartoon images, I pointed out, like, well, none of them have got any features. They're featureless. Yeah, what are these? And then it occurred to me, like, for all you meme makers out there, if somebody just added the NPC face that you often see on a lot of the memes, the NPC meme, where it's just like a angular nose and the slit eye and the slit mouth. Just put that on all of these, and there's just BBC propaganda weirdness. Why are they faceless?
It does get 2 diversity points. Bonus points.
Where's the yellow person? I don't see any yellow people.
Ooh.
Oh, BBC.
Ooh.
I think they should reduce your funding because you're not showing any yellow people. But my point was, this again is somewhat dehumanizing. Even though you may not be consciously aware of the effect it's having on your thinking, this behavioral modification, or in other terms, you could say it's marketing tactics. This becomes dehumanized. This figure, which at first glance you look at it and your conscious reasoning mind puts together an amalgamation of the information available and says, yes, that's a human. Right? Simply because of your life experience of when you see and encounter that kind of shape and form, etc., you know it as a living being, a human, but there's no face. So subconsciously, you are storing away that little extra bit of data as being, these are not actually real people. And the fact that it's a cartoon image, an animated or drawn illustration rather than a literal picture, that again adds into that effect of, this is not a human, this is not a living being, this is like a mannequin. I know they would probably argue in a marketing sense, it allows them to generalize and appeal to a much wider demographic because they're not making too much specifics about the image or the people in the image. But subconsciously, that leaves you with that formulation in your mind that what you're looking at, these are not living beings. So when they show these images of intimacy, physical intimacy, because that's what intimacy means, folks. Not like they tried to suggest you can do it digitally. No, you can't. But they're faceless. So what is this? Am I looking at some kind of robot porn? Do you see what I mean about how that's it's subtly dehumanizing on a subconscious level. You may not realize it, but your mind is absorbing that as like, well, these are not really beings. So when you look at 2 people hugging, are they really living beings or are they just mannequins?
And the fact that they just have to do it in the first place. Do this shit to,
Turn your face away.
And listen with mother, BBC, being all caring and loving, and they want to tell you how to hug correctly.
This is more for Karens, so they know when they can start screaming when they see something like this happen anywhere on the streets. I thought more like an instruction book for fascists.
I thought point number 2 was meant just for Jojo, because that's what he likes to do. He doesn't hug people face to face.
Face to face is faces between its breast.
Yeah. face to
I
breast.
hate it when grandma does that.
Yeah. Don't hug face to face. Instead, just put your face on the breast.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I thought, yeah, that's Jojo's on that. He likes to hug people from behind. Yeah. Inhale their hair while he grabs them. Yeah. But yeah, shout out to Scott. Thanks, Scott, for putting up your videos. And as I say, if you check his channel, he's got a video actually about the statue, outside the front of the BBC house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've made the argument before over the years. It's like, I think it might have been when all the stuff was happening about them wanting to take statues down and things like that. And people suggested, that statue should be taken down because of what it is and because of what it represents. But I argue that actually, no, completely the opposite.
Tells you what they are, really, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like a big bleacher beacon on top of that building that says these people come from this kind of background.
Yeah.
This is what's going on here. Even though they may present themselves as being the warm, cuddly, friendly auntie BBC, no, they're all about psychological manipulation and control of information. They are the output arm, the media arm of the state control system. So they are not friendly whatsoever. Yeah, and that statue epitomizes that. They might present themselves as that kind of good, wholesome image of family unity, but really what you're talking about is a guy who abused his own children.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would argue that you shouldn't take it down at all, because it lets everyone know, as long as you tell them the information about who it was who made that statue and what it represents, etc., then it is just like a big signpost on that building that says, look, they're here.
Yeah. And just look at more recent history with Savile and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, those 3 decades will be still going on further on, but it's just what they want you to kind of, they couldn't shut that, they revealed the Savile thing because there was so much weight, wasn't there? People saying there's something going on and all the victims speaking out. They couldn't sort of be quiet about it anymore. And suddenly, and then we've got Epstein as well. Don't forget all that crap. That's still going on with Prince Andrew and the royals. That's still bubbling away, and there's more coming out about that stuff. So yeah.
And this time I will remember to grab the link before I start doing the screen share, because then I can post it while I'm doing the screen share.
Yeah, Eric Gill, that was it. Mascara
Eric
Snake
Gill,
book.
yeah.
Made the statue.
Let me just quickly put that on screen in case people want to make a note, write it down or whatever, if they want to then go and research it to look into it for themselves. Thank you. Right, let me just screen share this one as well. To keep further to make the point about people going out and making it clear to everyone else that you don't need to be afraid. The state system, the governmental system, certainly here in the UK, as Pete pointed out, it's all around the world. It's not just us here. I've spent the entire year trying to terrify you, whereas really you don't be terrified. Don't be in fear about this shit. Did I put the link in the chat? No, I didn't. One sec. But I just wanted to play like the first bit of this video. Thanks again to UK Column where I found this link, and thanks to, I think he's called Red Pill Film, who was there doing the filming. I would question the beehive imagery. If you're not aware of that, quite a few people have covered the connections to that beehive imagery with Manchester. But besides that point, it was mainly just this first section where the protest march, there's a few thousand people there. It's not as big as maybe the one in London, but there's still quite a few thousand people there. And they were marching down the main shopping area, and then they decided to go into the Arndale shopping centre. Yeah, and there's a handful of police, so they can't exactly stop them. And they basically go in and, spread out and fill out most of the inside of the shopping centre. It's all perfectly peaceful. There's nothing crazy. You see, this is what's organic, genuine, authentic meetings, movements of people. They're not violent. They're not aggressive. They're not there to try and destroy things. They're not there to be your enemy. The state system at the moment wants us to perceive each other as enemies. If you feel that there is some kind of threat, some kind of illness that makes you choose to get a medical treatment to potentially protect yourself from that illness, that is your choice. But you do not have the right or any kind of authority to force everybody else to do the same as you. If you feel that it's in your best interest or whatever to get it, that's up to you. Go ahead. But I don't want it, and I refuse. Nick. I refuse to let anybody try and force it on me and make it mandatory for me in any way, through any form of coercion. That includes physical force or financial coercion or restrictions of participation in society, etc. No. I was just waiting for this bit where he actually walks in so you can see how full it gets with all the crowd in there.
This is positive, isn't it? Like you say, this is the more than half, more than the majority. Like I say, with the stats about people who've had it, 20 million. So that's 66 million. So it's it's maybe, like I say, we have to just remain that positive and know that there's a lot of us who aren't buying into it. And just know that, don't think you're the only one if all your family's had it and things like that. And, you think, God, I don't know anyone who hasn't had it, and don't ever feel like you've got to go and just go along with that. It's, again, you've got to stay strong. You're a spiritual warrior, remain so. You're here for a reason. You're not here to, we put up with lots of things in the past and everything. This is just one, again, it's just a choice. And they're making your choice sort of psychologically, like, so difficult. For some people, and they're, but don't bend the knee, don't sway, and stay in your power. That's what they don't want. You staying in your power, know who you are, consent, things like this, know your rights, your true rights, and you'll be fine. And there's, like I say, people aren't scared. They're not scared. They're scared to report these things in the mainstream. They're not telling you. They don't want you to know there's a massive positive vibe going on at the moment, and people are beginning to really go, wow, look, I didn't know that. I didn't know this, and then steaming off to the BBC. I remember talking about Eric Gill back in 2012, 11 or 13 time, that sort of thing with the Beeb, when the Savile thing came out and everything. So, again, it's good to see people seeing this, and it's, again, it's powerful stuff. And when more people see it, they've got the friends, they talk to their friends, like you say, word of mouth. Censorship, I mean, they'll do what they like online, but people will still talk and, things like that. They can't stop that. They don't want that. They don't want a collective mass all conscious and awake. Wow, they've got no chance, have they? So they don't want it.
I stopped it at that bit because you can just about see, like, because I think that's one of the main kind of like center points in the Arndale. There's a big crowd of people there. The guy gets up with his megaphone and talks a bit, and obviously all this crowd goes all the way back through the shopping centre. And also just to say, like, what I was ranting about in terms of, like, if you want it, go and get it and whatever. Please don't forget that if this thing is what they claim it is, as in the jabby jab, if it's a vaccine, like they keep saying it is and insisting that it is, then once you've had it, you don't need to worry about people who haven't had it. If they're telling you do still need to worry about people who haven't had it, then that proves that it's not what they claim it is. Even though, in recent times now that they've changed their tune, like they've done with so many of their other points and arguments, they've said, like, oh, well, it doesn't give you permanent immunity. So in other words, it's not a vaccine. It is not doing what they claim it should be doing.
And you need regular updates.
Yeah. Because a classic just simple logic. Yeah, the rule is simple. Apply logic. Classic simple logic is that if you've had a vaccination, you should no longer be afraid of unvaccinated people, because for a vaccine to be what they claim, then that means you are now immune because you've been vaccinated.
Mm.
They'll trot out the usual argument about herd immunity and people who can't have it for medical reasons and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, you're just chasing your own tail. Herd immunity happens naturally. It's nothing to do with vaccines. And people who are at risk would be at risk anyway, whether others around them have had it or not. It's the same argument about people being vulnerable to certain illnesses or situations. That means they avoid those situations. If you're vulnerable in that kind of sense, you don't put yourself in threat or in danger unless you choose to. If it's a calculated risk or whatever.
To me, the vaccinated are the vulnerable now.
Yeah, they are now. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
They had less risk of COVID than of whatever is going to come with the jabby jab.
Yeah. Now they've put their immune system through the ringer and basically compromised it. To what degree is going to be discovered hopefully at some point. Yeah.
The great unknown. Yeah. Well, I suspect they know, but somebody knows.
Yeah, I think personally, I mean, this is a bit of speculation just about the kind of bigger agenda arc kind of thing, but I think they know full well that it will disable most people's immune system almost completely. And they're relying on that because the plan is to replace any natural immune system with technological interventions of some kind.
Yeah.
It's steady progress towards that transhumanist goal of we don't need you meat sacks anymore. Yeah, we've got the machines now, so you're all expendable if you're above the 500 million limit for the planet. Yeah, just a sort of casual reference to the Georgia Guidestones.
And in case you're wondering why Bill Gates is smiling so much whenever he's talking about anything. Fucker.
Yeah.
Hello in the chat room. I see a few new names in there. Just joined in, or maybe you joined in earlier. I've been too busy waffling and ranting like I do. New being, hello. North Star 68, hello. Thanks for joining us. So South, hello. And keep scrolling up a bit. Hive mind consciousness, hello. Yeah, it is. That's a good way of describing it. The goal of COVID, or the COVID goal, is the global divider becomes the global uniter. Yeah, they want us to, they're trying to put a psychological wall between us, the population, split the population, so we start fighting with each other. Whereas really, when you start looking at this information, like Peter's made the point so many times, all this craziness that they've been doing is actually waking more people up. So you have to start asking you the question of, well, are they dumb, or is this some kind of sideways way that they're trying to play things? Or why are they actually doing things that are detrimental to their big agenda goals and whatever? But I think that's because they're overconfident. The arrogance has got to the stage, like Schwabby boy. You listen to some of the stuff he says and how he says it, the arrogance is such that they sit in their cloistered environment. They go around these meetings of the UN and Davos and Bilderbergers and stuff like that, and they live in an almost separate society near enough already. They talk about there being two societies at the same time, or two populations. It's been true for a long time. They live in their own little world. They don't live in the world that everybody else does. And the way he talks about some of the stuff that he would like to implement, without any potential discussion of the consequences of how the ramifications of how that's going to ripple through societies. Yeah, they are somewhat psychotic, sociopathic, certainly. I think,
Yeah.
you know, near the top of that pyramid, the majority of them are literally psychopaths.
I think that's also what's being said on the guidestones. It's that their population has reached 500 million.
Yeah.
And so the rest can go.
Select.
So the rest can fuck off.
Yeah.
So, yeah. They've kind of reached their goal.
CC Jelly, hello.
50 million or 500 million specimens, and we can rebuild whatever.
Yeah. Mink 109, hello. Thanks for joining the chat. Hope you're staying safe over there. I didn't want to get too much into the Israel-Palestine conflict at the moment because it's still ongoing. It's still rapidly accelerating. It's still getting more and more extreme.
Yeah,
it's literally fighting in the streets. You know, they're pushing the people so hard that they're starting to attack each other in the streets. And I agree with what so many other people have said. Like, I care about the people. I don't care which side they supposedly come from. Yeah, if they're being attacked from either direction, it's the same thing. In the same way that, like we've just been talking about, them trying to split up us into two camps of the vaccinated and unvaccinated. That kind of thing has been going on over there for how many decades now? 100 years probably, if you go all the way back to the Balfour Declaration and everything.
Yeah, the preparations.
Yeah, goading people into fighting each other so that they can take advantage while everyone's killing each other in the streets. It's sick shit, man.
Yeah.
If it all goes according to the conspiracy plan, the unvaccinated will be the ones that have to take care of the vaccinated.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll be preoccupied by taking care of our families or family members and whoever, or the healthcare system that might collapse or whatever.
Be a carer. Get paid to be a carer.
Yeah.
Well, there is no care in that sense anymore. Right. Right now, the hospitals are, what they say, flooded. Right. So, if the jabby jab does what we suspect it might do, well, they are going to be flooded to the max, and also the people who work there are going to be sick largely because they have got the jab.
Yeah.
So the whole infrastructure might fall apart. And I don't know on what islands you have to be safe for this, but I don't know.
Well, we'll see.
If it's you know, the doomsday scenario, let's put it like that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Let me, on a brighter note, let me carry on saying hello to everyone in the chat.
Yes, please, thank you.
There is a way out. There is a solution, and it's us. And we just non-comply, and we wake up, and we're waking up. So we are in a process here. I think you know, we don't know what the outcome is. They haven't determined it yet, and you know, we can still we will still change it. It's a numbers game.
Let me finish reading the chat a bit. Dan Conzio, hello. And I know I saw some others as I was scrolling. And Steve Tagoose, hello, mate. Thanks for joining in the chat. Who the fuck's that? Who the fuck's hat? But of course, it sounds better if you just say, "Who the fuck's that?"
It's that joke, wear the fox hat or something.
Yeah. Hello. Thanks for joining in the chat. I thought I saw some others, but I can't scroll back far enough by the looks of it. Roberto, hello. I knew I'd seen some others in the chat. Hello, mate. Hope you're well. Or getting better at least, hopefully. CMB, hello. 33, still confirmed. Or the way it used to be, was it Illuminati confirmed?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ancient alien theorists believe that if you point the phasers at the dilithium crystals, it might just work. No, it won't scroll back. Oh, lots some touch. Hello, mate. that's as far back as it'll let me scroll so far. So hello to everyone in the chat. Thanks for joining in. And see if I can get updated again now. Yeah, right, cool. So yes, it certainly is another week of interesting events and admissions starting to come out. I'm sure they'll try and make various semantic arguments or whatever about what I was saying in terms of what's in that Telegraph article. And that's just one example. But there's been other little things here and there where they're sort of gradually letting all those cats out of the bag. And they're admitting, like, oh, well, we deliberately were making people terrified because that's what we thought we had to do, but we didn't mean it. Sorry.
The modelling suggested that's what we do.
Yeah. So, starting to get ready for the fact that they know full well that the general population, even though they keep trying to tell us that, all the people have been vaccinated and they all hate the unvaccinated, they think you're all granny killers and crazy people, and blah, blah, blah. That's not the reality. Yeah. Yes, you will encounter some people like that. You will encounter some people that have been so terrified that they see you as some kind of walking virus, like a infected zombie or something coming to get them. Yeah, but those people are few and far between. The majority of people, I would argue, I still argue, I have been arguing, I'm going to keep saying it, the majority of people are doing what, unfortunately, so many others do when tyrannical regimes start to rise. They put their heads down, they try not to stand out from the crowd, they try to go along to get along because they're too worried, afraid, concerned that if they speak up, if they say no, if they do anything, they're going to get squished. And the system, can I bring that image to the front? No. Okay, I'll show that one instead. And the image relies on that kind of acquiescence. Most of the population have questions. Many of them can see through all this bullshit, but they're concerned about their own well-being, about the well-being of their family, their relatives, etc. They don't want to speak out, or they feel they can't because of the risk to their livelihoods and their situation. But they're not actually all about the official narrative as much as the government may claim they are. Don't believe that bullshit that, everybody thinks it's great. Like some of Trump's favorite sort of catchphrases of, everybody thinks he's great. He's such a great guy. Everybody loves him. It's the same kind of shit.
Yeah, he was such a great guy. He went to Epstein's Island. They've all been to Epstein's Island.
Yeah. Billy Bob, he's such a wonderful guy. He hires strippers to dance naked in his swimming pool. He's so great. Yeah. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah, and he's been to the island. They've all been to the island.
But they keep constantly trying to present us this imagery that everybody loves it, everybody agrees with it, everybody thinks it's great. Whereas the reality is, no, you had to ask how many people in the street, like 100, 1,000, before you found the handful of people that said something that you felt you could use in your little video package to claim that everybody loves it. No, fuck off. A simple example of that kind of marketing ploy, and this is something that's been going for a long time, certainly here in the UK, pretty much everywhere really. They'll put up an advert and they'll say, like, in our questionnaire, 8 out of 10 cat owners said they loved it. Their cats preferred it. Their pets preferred our brand. And when you look at the stats for their questionnaire, they asked 100 people. Right? That's not a sample of the population. Yeah. And the governments, and the polling companies that they use to do those kind of surveys will quite often do that. They use a very small sample size. As soon as they get the kind of percentile numbers statistically that enable them to make some kind of marketing ploy or argument, then they stop asking anyone else. Yeah. And they select it they select the people they ask to take part in the questionnaire in the first place. If ever you've been invited to fill in a survey and stuff like that, that's why they're doing it, because you've been selected, because they know you're more likely to give them answers that suit what they want for their narrative that they're trying to push. Yeah, they present this shit to us constantly. Whereas you look at, hang on, let me sort me picture thing out so I can share that image again. You look at that poll from the talk radio, and you can see like 31,000 votes. That's a bit more of a genuine sample size to give you some kind of
idea,
information, an idea of what a large population of your people think about something. That is something where if that was the BBC, as I say, they would have asked 100 people and then come out with the stats. Whereas at least with this, there's 31,000. I don't know, caveat in the sense of it's the internet. Some of them could have been cloned and all that kind of, malarkey. Possibly, but you'd have to investigate that. I'm just making the point that the larger the sample volume, the more likely you are to get clear, accurate descriptions in a statistical sense. Just asking a handful of people does not make good statistics.
Or with any of this, well, it's proven again with the modelling they did for how many people were going to die.
97% of scientists,
say,
and as well, I'd suggest people look into what used to be called big tobacco. And like 90% of doctors all agree that smoking Camel is really good for you. Smoking Camel it's the best brand on the market. Make you feel relaxed and ease your throat and stuff like that. All the bullshit they used to sell. The officials, the experts, thought that thalidomide was perfectly okay.
And asbestos.
And they recommended all of that stuff. So I was just reading that question. Is it okay to mirror stuff onto BNT? Yes, if you want to, right? In general, I don't put community license thing under the video simply because of the way YouTube works. I leave it as a standard license. But as long as people ask, and as long as you do the usual kind of community license attribution, I think it's called, the attribution community license. So in other words, please don't chop it up and misrepresent it. If you're going to share it with somebody, give them the whole thing. But I don't mind people re-uploading stuff if they want to. That's cool. The more it spreads, the more it shares around. That's what matters. Moving the information around and making as many people as possible aware of some of this stuff we're talking about. Like, you don't need to believe the bullshit that they're telling you. Start actually talking to other people and asking questions. And remember your ability to say no. And hello in the chat, Snow in May and Rojogan, hello. I just had a quick scroll back. And I just realised I closed the screen share and I meant to keep that open because I was going to show some of the other memes. Sorry. I'll catch the chat up again and I'll go back to it. Sort it out again. Sort it out!
Well, I hope you have more luck uploading to BNT than I did, because I just gave up on that fucking thing in the end.
They've been, I think they're getting heavily stifled, they're getting throttled and all that kind of shit's happening. As well as the other platforms, I've noticed Odyssey seems to be creaking a little at the seams every now and then. It could just be the sheer amount of new customers they're getting, basically, people moving from these mainstream platforms to all the others. But I hope they're not going to get the same kind of shit has been happening with places like Brand New Tube and BitChute, where they get throttled and they get crushed.
Just get hard to upload on there, or it's just so frustrating. I think I managed to get a couple of shows up on there, but then in the end, I just thought I can't spend all afternoon doing this. It's just one, trying to retry it, or you leave it rendering and it render for like a day, and then you think this ain't working, is it, or whatever, or you'd think to give it 20 minutes, but it just was like that. So, like you say, they are glitchy, aren't they? I'm not sure if it's improved, but it depends on the length of the video as well. Maybe because the 2-hour long ones, they take longer. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's down to how many people start making use of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, to a degree, it's down to that, because the system will shut them down if it comes to it. If they're getting too good and too big or whatever, they'll come along and say, "Oh, this is a naughty place. We have to shut down this naughty place."
Yeah.
Sorry, I was too distracted. I left this up because I just thought it was, a good point.
Yes.
Most people won't be aware that this kind of stuff is happening. This is a little side point in a newspaper article. Thanks, Taz, sharing this about Prince No Sweat. And now most of the charities and stuff that he used to be patron of have removed him.
I thought that would have happened sooner.
It may have been a steady progress over the last couple of years, I think.
Yeah.
Because I've heard it mentioned a few times, but this is like listing some of the actual groups now. So maybe it's just building up speed. They're getting ready to sort of push him into the Tower of London at some point. You never know. Oh, that was an old picture, wasn't it? The insert, or part of the insert. I mentioned this in one of the chats the other night. Somebody was saying about, is there monkey parts in it? And I said, yes, it is. It's the Chad Ox recombinant. I didn't list the whole name correctly because I couldn't remember it all, but remembering Chadox is, a good memory cue. And that is recombinant, which is grown from chimpanzee adenoviruses. So even though in the mainstream media they keep telling people there's no genetic material in it or whatever, there is. It's a recombinant, but that is a derivative from that genetic material. So there's genetic material in it. Don't ask too many questions. You're asking too many questions. Stop making sense. There's been a lot of stuff like that recently. I can't really read most of that. Pause the video and zoom in if you want to. That's just pointing out for people some of the unpleasant content you'll find in
formaldehyde and aluminium. Quite nasty.
And I say most, a good portion of that stuff is all about preservatives.
Yeah, that's
so
all it is.
Put this stuff in so that it can be stored in a warehouse or whatever over long, over years and years and years.
Yeah.
This is not the kind of stuff that you want in your body. But for them, in terms of production costs and all that kind of stuff, they want it to sit on a shelf in a warehouse for years. Or in a doctor's office or whatever. Again, that one's a bit hard to read. You might have to pause and zoom in, but that's another list of various things you will find in different jabby jabs. Yeah, be aware, like I said earlier, right at the start, this particular episode might get stumped. Chest feeding advice from Chad's friendly midwives. Oh dear, no.
We have mentioned that.
Just no. Just no. No, you would not. No, you would not want that at all. No. Sorry, I'm getting stuck on that. It's just like like when you've got a painful tooth or something, you can't stop prodding it. It's just no. Classic quote from Benjamin Franklin: "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." I remember that one.
That's a while back, isn't it? Some of these go back a few months.
Yeah.
Still good to show them, though. They're all relevant.
At the time, we were curious about her nurse's outfit. Like, why is it the pinstripe one? Yeah. How many nurses do you see wearing a pinstripe outfit like that anymore? Isn't that like from about 2-3 decades ago? Did she rent that costume out from a costume store? All dubious. For when you need your ninja mask. Yeah, that is basically a lot of what is going on. That is certainly a core part of what it is they're trying to achieve, to remove your bodily sovereignty so that they can, at any point in the future, decide what needs to go into your body. I'm not sure what that's relating to. Masks? Wearing masks? The same guy wearing masks?
Same guy in every shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Promo pictures. Yeah, these are all obviously constructed PR pictures because it's the same guy in every shot. I feel like a bit like we're doing some kind of quiz show now, like trying to figure out what the picture's about. I was sure I'd seen some more. I know that. I know why. Let me just find. I think it might be. That's why. Yes, I had it on the wrong room. No wonder.
There's a few of those rooms, and then I get confused sometimes to do the Wednesday.
I know.
And yeah. I think, where are those images? Where are those images I saw you sharing maybe last? And I can't find them sometimes. I think, oh, they're in that room.
It's spread out, hasn't it? It's almost like it's a growth unto itself. I found the one I was supposed to be going through. So yes, because this is the one that had that initial link in. I didn't realise I'd changed room in between while I was starting and stopping stuff. Yeah, that's his. The school system. It's always good. I'm sick of this job. And Elon's there. Why don't you go to Mars? He's like, oh, I'll do the same job on Mars. Yeah, it's a different view. Welcome to the new abnormal life. Do, 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 do. I think that is definitely one of the good simple memes. You know, sometimes it's better to keep things simple. The rule is simple. The refuseniks rule was always simple. Just say no.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bit of a just rude joke one. I'm not having 69 of them. They may be different actors, but it's always the same script. I wondered about the pigtails.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something maybe subliminal about the pigtail. Possibly some of the connotations of it indicates a certain amount of... Sorry?
Hitlerjugend.
Oh, yeah, I know. But I mean, just as a sort of general thing about pigtails, that they signify a kind of order brought to chaos. Because with hair that long, without it being pigtails, it would be somewhat chaotic and, you know, all over the place, a bit of a bad hair day. So are they deliberately choosing girls, the sacred feminine, but getting them to dress in this manner where they have long pigtails? The length of the hair is part of those indicators of femininity, you know, but they're in pigtails. So it's almost like it's the feminine energy that has been chained because it's had this purpose of restrictive order put on its wildness. You know, the hair released is wild and free, but they brought that in and tied it into a knot.
Tied it up, yeah. So,
yeah. Like it's I suppose you could say it's subconsciously symbolic of the fasciae. Yeah, the many strands bound together to give strength. But that's another, yeah. You're hiding unvaccinated people under your floorboards, aren't you? Yeah. Just one or two more, and then I'll stop because we're nearly up to the hour. Yep, it is rapidly mutating. I think you could say it's a triple mutant. It's a totalitarian, technocratic, dystopian dictatorship. There you go. It's a triple mutant.
Mutant variant.
This good quote from Ayn Rand. I don't agree with all the stuff, but it doesn't mean she was a dummy. She certainly wasn't. We are fast approaching the stage of the ultimate inversion, the stage where the government is free to do anything it pleases while the citizens may act only by permission. That is exactly spot on. Yeah, this is part of why they want to take your bodily autonomy off you, because you can't do anything with what should be your body because it's no longer yours. It belongs to them. They dictate what happens to your body. You have to ask permission to do anything with it. Yeah. I think that's a good one to make the point about how, and certainly been building up over the last couple of weeks, they're trying to put this idea into people's heads that it's the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated. And that's not what's really going on here. I think you'll find that most of the, I say most, just as a caveat, don't want to generalize everyone, the majority, the most of people who are talking about not getting vaccinated, who would be put in that refuseniks camp, they are not saying these things because they want to be your enemy. They're not saying these things because they're trying to get you or come and get you or whatever. The system is telling you that they are your enemy. They're not. Yeah. Again, I'll reiterate, just to connect it back to the subtitle this week, the refuseniks rule was always simple. No mandatory vaccines, no mandatory ID, track and trace, biometric database system, passport bullshit, no masks, no social distancing, no lockdowns. It's enough for the bullshit before it gets any worse and develops into potentially much darker threads. So on that wonderfully bright note,
Thanks,
to go with the rainy weather we've been having here again in the UK, hopefully we might get more sun and we can get back to enjoying the summer as the summer's coming in rapidly. Thanks, guys, for joining in.
Cheers. And thanks to all in the chat as well. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you to everyone in the chat. Check out the links if you can, if you've got time. And check out all the other good content creators out there and broadcasters, etc. We'll be back on Wednesday night with the reality chat on the reality chat channel, and Steve Tagoose will be on Thursday night with the mystery show, and Dr. Rock is on Thursday night as well on posttruthworld.net.
.net, yeah.
Yes, it's .net, is it?
Yeah.
I keep stopping to remind myself, is it net or yeah, net. Posttruthworld.net. Yes, I'll leave it at that because otherwise I sit here reeling out a list of people doing stuff. You know, check my liked videos playlist. You'll see all the stuff I've been looking at and clicking thumbs up on and whatever. And yeah, don't believe the bullshit, don't believe the hype, keep talking, keep thinking before they make it illegal. Thanks again, folks. Thanks for giving us your attention for a couple of hours. We'll see you again soon. Catchies.
Catchies.